Okay, so now we've looked at converting fractions and decimals, we can move that on a little bit just to look simply at converting into percentage, and then we can see how the three kind of interlink. So we know that if we've got 0.1, then we've got one part of getting to a whole. Okay, we'd need another 0.9 to get to a whole one. That is the same then, if we convert that to a fraction, as 1/10, because we know the 1 was in the tenths column. And if you think about the last video, if we can convert that to a tenth, we can then make an equivalent fraction from 1/10 times the numerator and the bottom by 10. Instead of dividing like we did on the last video, we're going to times them. So 1 times 10 is 10, and 10 times 10 is 100. So now we have 10 out of 100, 10 hundredths. So again, if I was writing that as a decimal, it would be 0.10. We'd have our number in the tenths and hundredths. Now, if we can make something out of 100, a simple number like a tenth or 2/10 or 3/10, then we should be able to convert that into percentage. Now, the percentage sign means out of 100. So in this example, 0.1, which is the same as 0.10, we know that when we converted that into a fraction and then again, it was 10 out of 100, 10 hundredths. The percentage sign means out of 100. So in this example, out of 100, we have 10, which would be 10%. If I simply change the 1 in my example and create the number 0.4, then we know that that is 4/10, which as a fraction is 4 out of 10, which is 4/10. When we times the numerator and denominator by 10, we'll get 40 out of 100. So our percentage would be 40% because it's 40 out of 100. Let's try another one. So this time we're going to change our decimal from being simply out of 10 to being a hundredth decimal. So we're going to keep our hundredth over here. So when we're looking at percentages, we are looking at the hundredths. Okay, so let's do 0.32, 0.32, which would be 32 hundredths. So that is 32 out of 100. So out of 100, we have 32. As a percentage, we have 32%. Nice and simple. Okay, let's have a look at this using a number, for example, like 0.5. Now we know that eventually it'll be 5/10, but we know that is going to round down to a half. It's going to become simplified down to a half. In another way, we can say, what's that fraction of 100? Divide by the bottom times by the top. So 100 divided by 2 is 50. So it's 50%. And if I had gone through those steps again, I would have had 5 out of 10. Then I could have times the bottom and the top by 10 to make 50 out of 100, which eventually then would lead to my 50%.